testing 1, 2, 3. Say something, tell me a joke.
Sasha tries to be on time and organized.
Hi everyone, it's Sasha. Thanks for joining I Am a Mess But Also Delicious, my pod, and for being part of this community. I really appreciate you. What you just heard was what I think is a hilarious clip of my friend Andres Suarez. He is a prolific engineer at Facebook in New York City. And we had such a good conversation finally after many attempts of trying to get together and coordinate timing and technology. This clip was a test run last week when I could not figure out how to use the microphone on this app and record our conversation. So we have a fun and brother-sister type relationship where we are very open to each other's ideas, thoughts, values, even if we do not agree with them. And it's been really fun to be his friend and also his yoga teacher. We met in my yoga class in New York City a few years ago, and he would show up every day, same time, same place, early, and I just always really appreciated his interest and enthusiasm, even though it was a quiet enthusiasm. So we talk a little bit about his the importance that he puts on focus and how it's helped him to solve problems and create something that he wished had existed but didn't. And we also obviously talk about yoga, how it helps him to focus in a different kind of way than writing code and his job as an engineer. We also talk about his favorite yoga pose. And he's got some really good tweetable moments, some really great little nuggets of insight and wisdom. And one of the reasons I wanted to chat with him on here and introduce all of you to him is because I really appreciate being able to talk about mindfulness with every type of human, whether or not you are a committed yogi, a committed meditator, whether or not mindfulness or wellness, those words are like nails on a chalkboard for you. I think we can all relate to each other within this field, whatever name you want to put on it. And it was really fun to talk about some of these things with him and hear more about how he got to where he is now and the impact that this practice of awareness has brought to his life within the field of yoga and mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. Also, his description of what a mess and delicious is super on point. So I really hope you enjoy this. Thanks again for being here.
Okay, we did it. Recording officially.
Finally.
Andres. This is our third, maybe fourth attempt at meeting.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Hi.
How's it going?
Welcome, Andres. It's going pretty good in Paris.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm okay. New York is gross and rainy, but it's okay.
But it's okay. It's spring. That's just how it rolls in New York.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like spring, but I know it's going to come.
It's en route, like everything. Okay, so Andres and I have a pretty interesting, not like a really interesting story of how we met, but I had invited him to talk with me on my pod because I appreciate his insight. Andres and I have very similar, but also very different views of the world and life and yoga. And I appreciate it because it makes for interesting human conversation. And I just like being able to like agree to disagree with a friend. So thanks for that, Andres. This is I Am a Mess But Also Delicious. So I had this idea that like I would call this tech and delicious. What do you think about that?
No, I really like I really like I'm a mess, but also delicious.
You do like it, or you're not a fan of it?
I'm not. No, I do. I do. I do.
Okay.
I'm
It
not.
work. It
I'm
works
not
for
sure
me.
what it means. I have an interpretation of it, but it sounds nice.
Do you mind sharing your interpretation of
Let me see. Have you ever cut a slice of cake and it's come out just perfect, but then you cut another one and it's a mess? It's like all over the place and it's falling over. But then when you eat them, they both taste the same. They're both delicious.
that? Yes, I have.
So that's kind of like I am a mess, but also delicious. That some things are just great, regardless of whether they're a mess or not.
That is awesome. I'm gonna quote you on that and maybe write a
Yeah,
book about it.
because I mean,
um,
it at least it totally holds with cake. If you whether your cake is falling over or it's in pieces, it tastes exactly the same as if it's cut really super nice and neat and perfect.
yes, that is an excellent interpretation. Thank you. I have a whole
Is
new
that what it means?
you just
Did
yeah.
I get it? Did I get it right?
There's no right or wrong here. No,
Yeah.
I really enjoy that interpretation because I think people can relate to cake. I can relate to cake. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can make it look however you want, but it's gonna taste the same. Like life is just gonna be how it is, regardless of how it looks from the outside. Thank you.
Yeah.
So tell us rather a little bit about what you do, because you've told me so many times what you do. And if I were to relay that to another person, I'm pretty sure I would not do it justice. So can you tell all of us a little bit about what you do in a language that we might be able to understand?
So my day job is a software engineer at Facebook. I work on internal developer tools, which are the tools that engineers at Facebook use to write Facebook. So I think a good analogy for what this is, if engineers are authors, I work on Microsoft Word, right? I make the tools that they use to be able to write.
So you have a pretty important job. Like Facebook would not run. Like
I wouldn't go.
people would not be able to create Facebook without the tools that you provide them.
They would have a very hard time.
So, did this come naturally to you as a kid? Like, if you were to look back at like childhood Andres, would you say, I'm going to end up in tech someday?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I think the writing was on the wall, but I never saw it. So I've actually been programming since I was 12,
And
and it's just something I always did. And I always enjoyed it, but I never took it as a job. In fact, my life took me somewhere completely different. Um, I ended up going to law school and passing the New York bar. And through just pure luck, I ended up not practicing law, instead going into software engineering.
were
So
you
it's always
excited about
been with
that?
me.
Like, was that
Oh
was that
yeah,
something that okay?
yeah. I mean, I'm not. I mean, you know me, and I'm not. I'm not in. I don't know how to say this. I'm not too into like the spiritualness and whatnot. But I like to describe that my circumstances as having won the universe's lottery, because I just like everything worked out so perfectly.
Why is that? Like
So
timing wise, like the way. So let's start from the beginning. So where did you grow up, and how did it lead you to that pivotal moment?
I'm Colombian. I was born in Medellin, Colombia, and we moved to the U.S. When I was 13. I actually started writing code when I was in Colombia. Again, out of pure luck, we got a computer and it didn't have anything on it except programming tools. So that's all I did.
You just figured it out. Like you were like, oh, let me press some buttons.
yeah, and then you take it from there. And I had a very supportive father who, um, like I remember he would take me to like I wanted to know more, and he would take me to the library, and I would check out books on the subject. And I was fortunate enough that when you're a little kid and you're checking out programming books, people take notice and they kind of help you along, and that's how I got into that. But it was always such a side thing, such a fun thing for me that I never considered it to be a job ever.
Did you have any ideas about what you would do, like, when you grew up? Like, were you interested in law? Like, when you got into law school and set off on that trajectory, did that
Man,
excite you?
not even that either. My undergrad is in economics and I have a master's in finance. So I was going into the world of business. And then uh, I got, no joke, I got curious about law. And next thing I know, I took the LSAT, got into law school, and sort of just stayed.
Sort of just stayed.
Yeah.
Easy, right? And after
I,
law school,
that's why.
no, so was it easy for you? Like, after law school, where you're like, okay, so that was
So
easy
like,
enough. Now I'm just
so
gonna be a lawyer.
actually, I mean, now this is getting into like real life territory, but at the time was really difficult in my life, and law school was actually an escape. So I'm really glad that I got that.
It took you to, like, a different level that you didn't
Yeah,
have
it got
to.
me.
Yeah,
It
okay.
got me out of. I was at the time before law school. I was living in Miami, and I went to school in Boston. So that got me out of there.
You were not
And it was.
you were not cool with Miami.
I was no. I was over it.
Okay.
Oh, talk about entitled, right? Like, mhm.
So it literally took you to, like, it literally took you out of that life.
Yeah, I did, and it worked out.
And then after law school, the stars aligned. I can just hear you, like, cringing as I say that, but the stars aligned for you in some way, shape, or form. And what took you to tech? Like, how did that evolution unfold?
Yeah, so many things just happened at the right in the right order at the right time. While so like this entire time while I was in high school, in undergrad, and even through law school, I kept writing code for fun. I made things for myself. I worked a little bit on open source, and but that was it. While I was studying for the bar exam, I I built a Tumblr app replacement because I really liked Tumblr at the time, and I was not really happy with the experience that they had. So I built a different dashboard that was much faster, in my opinion, a lot nicer. And it turns out that Tumblr was in New York, and one thing ended up leading to another. And shortly after I took the bar exam, I met some of the people from Tumblr, and I ended up getting a job there as a software engineer.
And were you happy there? Was that exciting
Oh
for
yeah,
you?
it was some of the. Like, I can't imagine like a better place to have been at the time. Like it was not only fun, it was cool. I was working on a thing that I like used as a as a person. Like it's been I've been fortunate in my professional career that I've gotten to work on products that I use myself. And so getting started with that, like getting a taste of I actually work on a thing that I personally use was really cool.
That's also such a great business approach. I mean, not that you went and started your own business, but you kind of did, because you are your own business and you created something because you were annoyed that it didn't exist.
And that's actually been the story of my life.
Something
Yeah.
doesn't exist, just create it for yourself. That's a very like motivational concept. Do you feel
So
that way, or
that's
is that
actually,
just
yeah, actually that's been the key to my professional success. That I happen to have the same problems that other people do, and I have a knack for finding them and solving them. And the fact that I mean, it's a little selfish, but the fact that I have the problem myself leads me to really good solutions most of the time. So like everyone benefits from that.
of course, but I think that's a really inspirational way for everybody to live. Like, notice what's around you. If something doesn't exist that you really want to exist, how can you create that? And you've literally manifested that. And I know, you can talk about manifestation versus hard work and whatever, but they're all intertwined, because the first step in that is noticing that you want something to exist. And so you took the necessary actions to create it. I was thinking about you before I we started this today, and our conversations. So Andres has since, and we'll talk about this in a minute, come with me on 3 yoga retreats, twice in Costa
Mm-hmm.
Rica. And just recently in Costa Rica a few months ago, I was trying to work on something. It was right before I moved to Paris. And I think I was like, I had my computer up. I had like 5 tabs open. I had my phone next to me because I was like texting or Instagramming or something. And story just of that whole week was Andres saying, Sasha, focus. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm learning a lot from that, because you really get shit done, because it seems like when your mind is on something, that is your main focus, and you just drill it until it's complete. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, to me, focus is by far one of the most important character traits and just life skills you can have. It you it it's nothing to be really smart or really good at something if you don't have focus and you can't get things done. Everything else doesn't matter.
It's like literally just put your mind to it,
Mm-hmm.
and things will get done. So after you went to Tumblr, eventually you ended up at Facebook. And how has, I hesitate to say wellness around you, but how does like, I guess, well-being or self-care or yoga or mindfulness, like mindfulness, I'll use that term, mindfulness in this sense, how has that played a role in all of this? Because I can't imagine, I mean, this is called A Mess and Delicious for a reason. Like, I can't imagine that this was all smooth sailing. Like, there had to have been bumps in the road, but you are obviously really stoked to be working in this field. So how has mindfulness played a role in the ups and downs of this process, and I guess in your life as a whole? Like, did it start before you got into yoga, or is it more of a presence now in your life because you've started yoga? Tell
Well,
me.
so I actually started with yoga in law school out of chance. Um, I this is gonna sound terrible, but I was having trouble sleeping during law school, and I went to my doctor, and they told me to try yoga. So I tried it. It didn't work for that. I still couldn't sleep, but I really enjoyed it for some reason. Um, at the time, I didn't understand why I liked it or how it was helping me, but now in hindsight, I do. And I came to this realization, I think on our first retreat, where I think you asked, like why are you here, and like what is or what is why do you practice yoga? And I really hadn't given it much thought up until that point. It was more just like autopilot. I enjoy doing it, I do it. but there must be a reason why I enjoy it. So like that came about then. And I think the reason why I like it and the influence that it's had in my life and in my well-being is that yoga, like I said earlier, I really value focus. Yoga forces me to focus in a different kind of way than all other things in my life. So with work, I really have to focus on what I'm doing at the moment in the code in order to get it right. And that's a very particular kind of focus that I've gotten really good about. Now, there's a physical focus that you need to have in yoga in order to do it right and not hurt yourself. You have to be in the there, in the now. You can't let your mind wander, or you're literally really just going to fall over, or you're going to lose pace. And that was a kind of focus and discipline that I didn't have before. And I've gotten a lot better at it. And I think that side of my focus persona was missing. And like being able to have that kind of control, not only over your body, but your mind, just makes you overall a better person.
Well, that was yoga in a nutshell. So yoga completed that part of the internal physical focus, because you can be so focused on the external world. And it sounds like focus is an ongoing running theme in your life. But
yeah, I don't think it's something I don't think you just it's not like a thing that you get and then you have it forever. It's something you have to keep at, and you can lose it over time if you don't practice it.
It's a muscle. Yeah.
It's a muscle.
That's why in the sutras they say to practice for a long time without break. I mean, Iyengar practiced literally almost until his dying day. So we've talked a lot about, the physical practice of yoga too, and the postures. Do you have a favorite posture? Like if you were, I think I asked this on the retreat, if you were a yoga posture, what would you be and why?
Oh, I have two favorites for completely different reasons.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I really like up dog because it feels good. For some reason I like that kind of bend. So that is just, I like the way it feels. But my real favorite pose is tree pose with a block on your head. That there is, in my opinion, there is no, or at least any pose that I can actually do, there's no other pose that forces you to think about everything that is going on, then trying to balance on one leg and keep a block on your head. You think about every single muscle, what it's doing, and you are trying really hard to control everything. So that's my favorite.
As again, focus. Did Caroline teach you that one? Tree with the block on your head? Yes. Mm-hmm. So to go back to our backstory, Andres and I met in my basics class that I taught at Yoga Vida in New York about, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And my sweet, dear yoga wife, Caroline, has since taken over that class, and I can guarantee everyone in that class is learning a lot. So props to you, Caroline. And Andres was always like early, and if he wasn't early, he was rushed. Like needed to be early in the front row in the same outfit in almost the same place every week. And for we didn't talk, I don't think, for a while. Like you didn't really stay after and ask many questions, and then I think you did maybe ask a question once, and I was like, oh, this guy is like actually really interested, intrigued, very I don't know, I appreciated your inquiry and your focus. And then after a while I announced my retreat and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna come. And I think you were just, it was no questions asked. You just showed up, and I was just so impressed by your commitment. Like you had made the decision. There was no, I think you find this a lot as a teacher, especially, and as a student, there was no wishy-washy. It was just, you made the decision and you said, yes, let's go. Had you ever been on a trip like that before? What drove you? Like, we know now what took you to yoga and what has, held your interest in maintaining a practice, but what then inspired you to take a trip?
Yeah, so that was my first trip like that ever. And it was really interesting.
And you were the only dude.
Yeah, that's been a theme at these retreats.
And you really hold your own, and then he becomes like the most popular person there. So anyway, so what was the experience like? But what actually inspired you to do it? And then what was your experience like when you finally did it?
So you had talked about it before. So that when I first started going to your class, that was like 2-3 months before your first retreat. And at the time that sounded cool, but I completely blew it off because I didn't know you. And I was like, I'm not going to go. I mean, it looks cool, but I'm not going to go to anything with this rando I don't know.
Great. Yeah.
Another year passes. I'd gone to your class 50 plus times, and like, okay, like this sounds interesting, but I was still worried because of how different it was from everything that I normally do. But I am a big, even though I'm a bit reserved and cautious, I'm also a big believer in, even if you think something is going to suck, you should try it anyway, at least once, to say that you know it sucks for a reason. And I to be honest, I kind of went in with that attitude, like, okay, this looks cool, but you never know, but I have to try it anyway. And when you commit to something, you commit to it, right? I glossed over this part earlier when I said, like, oh, I went to law school and then I sort of just stayed. No, it's kind of like the same thing. You commit to something and you finish it. And I saw the retreat kind of like that. Like, I'm going to do this and that's it. Like, I'm just going to do it. There's no wishy-washiness to it. It just is. And it turned out to be fantastic. And it completely exceeded all expectations. And I did it 2 more times. And I'm looking forward to the fourth.
And we're getting ready. This is not P.S. I'm not paying him to make an advertisement or endorse my retreats, but
have to pay her.
That's true. It's actually been so enriching to have you there for everybody, for all parties involved, just because you have, like, I think we can really easily get lost in this like boho chic, peace, love, namaste, zen, love and light world and trend. And I think you do such an amazing job at, like, the last retreat. We were in a circle and we were just kind of like saying words or things that had come up for us, that we felt, by the end of the retreat. And I had felt like a really deep connection in different ways to everyone that had joined. And it was a pivotal point in my life. And I said something like, I am you, because I felt, like this connection. Like I saw the mirror, I saw myself in each person and each person in myself. And Andres, without missing a beat, after me goes, I am me. you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's such a fresh.
But yes, you know what though? It's the whole experience is both ways. So my normal everyday world is very different from that environment, and I also find it enriching to get that perspective, even if a lot of it doesn't personally jive with me. It is enriching to see other sides, even if they're not your side.
Andres for president.
Yeah, I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I mean, I am a U.S. citizen. I was not born in the United States. I cannot be president.
Don't worry, no one's gonna find this and take you under custody.
When I run for Senate, I'll let you know.
You'll get my votes and all my endorsements on social media. Andres, before we wrap it up, I could talk to you also about this for hours. When Andres came to the Bali retreat that I taught on for fitness and foolishness, we hung out for, I think, like 2 days after everyone had left. And it was kind of just like nonstop talk and banter like this. And it's enriching for me too, to see all sides, because we don't agree on everything, and how I don't know, just our viewpoints on everything are not, they don't always align, but it's great. It's wonderful to still maintain a friendship, despite disagreements. So in these last like 1 or 2 minutes, what's one prominent lesson that you've learned from yoga that you might like to share?
That's a hard one.
You can also come back to me with this.
I have an answer, and I'm not going to elaborate on it just because I want it to stay ambiguous and open to your interpretation. Are you ready?
Yep.
Balance.
#balance.
That's it.
I dig it. That's awesome. Andres, thank you so much for taking time to do this, and
absolutely
for being you. Don't ever change. I know you won't anyways.
Oh, don't worry about it. I am me.
You are you, and we are all each other. Namaste.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. And thanks everybody for listening to I Am a Mess, but also delicious. Until
Bye,
next
everyone.
time. Bye. Peace out.
Bye.